I think it's important to start with the premise that, college is really a match to be made, not a prize to be won. It's a match to be made, not a prize to be won. You don't need to be at the place with the fanciest name necessarily, or the place that everybody's heard of. You want to find a place that's really a good fit for you, for the student as well as the parents, and a place where they can flourish academically, socially, personally, intellectually, spiritually and religiously, if that's part of their calculation. So you want to find a good place that's a good fit for you. So I have four quick tips that I'll share with you, and then we'll hear about how some recent college students have made their selections, some of which may have followed my recommendations and tips. Probably not, though. They probably made their decision some other way. So tip number one, zoom in. Zoom in. Can you zoom in? Zoom in. Focus. Your senior year is not over. Don't go crazy. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? You still have a semester, a quarter left, a semester of coursework to do in high school, and you want to make sure that you finish up strong academically. Your admissions decisions that you have received are all conditional. They are, you are admitted to colleges with the caveat that you successfully complete your high school careers with the same level of academic performance that you have exhibited up to this point. So don't start slipping, finish up strong, focus on those books. That's right, you still got to do your homework. Step number two, tip number two, visit schools. Visit schools. Some of the schools to which you've been admitted, they may be very close to your house. Take a Saturday and take a Saturday or a Friday afternoon and go over and visit campus and get a chance to get a feel of the place. You want to talk to students, you want to talk to faculty members and administrators, and see if it's a good fit for you. If you happen to live a little bit further away from a college or university, you still want to visit, and oftentimes colleges will have visit days sponsored by the admissions office or the broader campus community so that you can learn a little bit more about any particular college. And, don't forget that, sometimes colleges will even have money to fly you out or provide a stipend for transportation. So don't be shy about asking whether those resources are available for students. And typically, transportation is provided for just the students. Sorry, Mom and Dad, you may not have the opportunity to fly out. Sometimes that's an option, but most of the time, those funds are reserved specifically for the student. Tip number three, students, parents. This is like a get real moment. You have to talk to each other about finances and the role that finances will play in the college selection process. And for some families, who may have a few more financial resources, they may say, Pablo, you don't have to think about money at all when you're considering your college options. But for most families, that's not the case. And you need to know a little bit more about how much students should think about the finances when they're considering the school to which they will ultimately enroll. Because it's not just an academic and personal decision, it is also a financial decision. And some of the schools to which you've been admitted, you may have to take out some money in order to attend. And there's a difference between taking out $5,000 a year to attend and enroll at a college and taking out $30,000 a year. Now, not to say that taking out $30,000 a year is a bad decision, but it may not be a prudent financial decision for you and your family, and you need to have that conversation before you start looking at places in which to enroll. So having honest talk about the finances, that's important. And then four, my ultimate advice is really for students to enroll at a college or university, where you feel good, where you feel like the students, understand you and you can make friends there. You feel like the administrators are supportive and want you to succeed. You feel like the faculty are behind you and want to teach you and want to push you to grow and be the best that you can be. You want a place that, is not going to be there when the good times are rolling, but really when the bad times are happening. You want a place that's going to be supportive of you. So like, if you don't know how to do your calculus homework and you don't have any money, you want somebody on that campus, whether it's a student or a faculty member, to say, I will help you with your calculus homework. I will help you buy a slice of pizza. I will not let you go hungry. So you want to find a place where you get that feeling and are confident that you're a good fit for that particular community. So I will stop my comments there, and I will share the stage with my distinguished co-discussants who are graduates of some really great colleges and universities, and they can tell you how they arrived there. So I don't know who we go to now, Linda.
Okay, you ready? All right. Hello, everyone. My name's Falake, and I am a graduate of Yale. I just graduated this summer, in summer of 2015, and I also participated in MIT in 2011. So the college admission process for me was just deciding based on where I visited. So I ended up choosing Yale because when I visited the campus, I felt like a professor would buy me a slice of pizza if I was hungry, or someone would volunteer to help me with my calculus homework if I was, going through a rough time. So I did take Quinton's advice even before he gave the advice. Yeah, I'm here for further questions later.
Hi guys, my name is Pablo, and in all honesty, I couldn't agree more with what Quinton said. Those tips are actually phenomenal. I guess it makes sense. So yeah, I was MOSTEC 2014. MOSTEC 2014, I'm a local from Boston. I went to Boston College High School. Yeah, and honestly, I think the biggest one that I will either highlight in further questions will be definitely tips number 3. And probably as well tips number, number 1, I believe, focus and the money. Because during my experience, at least when I was going towards BU and I was transitioning from high school to college, there's a lot of lack of incentive, I guess you could say. Once you're second semester senior, we've all been there. It's very hard to stay true to your studies. It's very hard to stay true to your goals. But I cannot emphasize enough how important it was to do well on AP tests. At least for my experience going to Boston University, I had taken 12 APs in high school, and Boston University accepted basically almost all of them. So they gave me almost an automatic sophomore standing. So I was able to pick all the classes I wanted to. I was able to pick classes I was really interested in that get me involved with my major really early on. That also helped me out getting research opportunities right from the bat. I actually started my research at Boston University a semester before I even got there. It was during the summer. So AP classes are really important. They really set a standard for the type of student you're going to be in college. And when it comes to money, which I think I will also talk a little bit about later in further questions, that actually was one of the driving factors for why I actually chose BU. I was awarded the Trustee Scholarship there, which I will go into more depth later, but it's basically a full tuition scholarship for 4 years guaranteed, as long as you maintain a certain GPA, and those are really the two biggest factors for me. The fact that I was able to get an advancement in my electrical engineering degree, as well as it being completely free and staying local to Boston, which is one of my goals. So pass it on to.
So great. Hi, everybody. Like I said earlier, my name is Jasmine. I was 1909. I graduated MIT in 2014, almost a year ago. And I'm in the working world now, and that's a whole other challenge. So maybe we'll do another webinar in 4 years when you get there. But going back to my college decisions now, almost 6-7 years ago, some of the big factors for me were many that, the other panelists have commented on, but really cost. So there are a lot of schools out there that kind of have if your family's below this threshold, there's kind of some provisions in there that kind of help you, afford schools that may otherwise be out of your reach. That was my situation with my family. And so for me, I remember my counselor was like, aren't you worried about, scholarship hunting and, all your financial aid? I was concerned, but I knew the schools that I was applying to, a lot of them had those thresholds, which really made it easier for me and my family to make the decision when the time came. Another big factor for me was community, and I think this is really the time, while you're focusing on your studies, to really think about what community means to you. So if you are, first sharing your band, and that is a big part of, what you identify with, what's going to keep you going, what you're going to be able to retreat to if you have a bad day, a bad week, a bad month, because they do happen, then you want to go to a school where you have an opportunity to continue doing what you love. If you love to cook, you want to go to a school where you're going to have that opportunity to get into the kitchen, or, maybe it's a kitchen in your dorm and you can connect with your dorm mates that way. But definitely figuring out what community means to you, and then making sure that whatever schools you're trying to decide on have that there, because that is really what's going to get you from, kind of wide-eyed, bushy-tailed freshman and get you to the end, across the stage, is that sense of community. And then finally, my third big factor was looking for a challenging environment. I wanted somewhere where I didn't know what type of grade I was going to get going into a test. That was kind of high school. I knew if I studied hard, I could walk in and it'd be great. And I wanted somewhere that was really going to push me to my limits, which is kind of how I decided, what school I wanted to go to. And I would also say that's another personal decision, like what does pushing to your limits look like? So a lot of factors to think about in coming weeks. Yeah, that's me.
Hi everyone, my name is Kevin. I'm a current freshman at Harvard studying mechanical engineering and computer science. I was 2014, I took the computer science course. And to talk about a couple of deciding factors that I took into care, number one was environment. Slightly different from Jasmine's. My environment was the fact that where is this physical location that the college that I'm choosing right now. So for example, I'm from California, and when I was deciding my schools, I realized that if it's not for college, I really wouldn't have the opportunity to spend a long period of time focusing on something that I'm really interested in on the opposite side of the coast. So therefore, I was able to narrow down my choices towards the East Coast. And for me, who was aiming to go into engineering, I ultimately had to decide between MIT and Harvard. I chose Harvard. Don't ask me why. Sorry. So therefore, reputation was also a huge factor. Not just the school name value, but what my major, what my field of study is able to do at those current schools. Also, I was looking at the growth factor and the potential of the type of field I was going into. So for example, Harvard engineering, although it might not be as well known as MIT engineering, it has a very huge potential with a lot of donations and a lot of basic fundamentals of great labs and great resources that a lot of the students and professors provide. And on a bit lighter side, friends do also matter. So I was fortunate enough to become a Coca-Cola scholar last year. So I had a chance to meet a lot of the students who were deciding between schools before I had to make my final decision on May 1st. So therefore, I was talking to a lot of the students at a lot of the different colleges that I got into, and kind of felt what kind of vibe they give off. You know, some friends gave off a bit nerdier vibe, some friends gave off a bit more social and well-rounded vibe. So it's very different. So you get to choose by talking to other people what kind of environment you want to belong to. And last but not least, I think financial concerns really do come into play. My parents and I had a really hard time deciding, you know, what kind of financial aid package should we weigh in. Until later on that I realized I was fortunate enough to be a Gates Millennium Scholar, which meant that my college, undergrad, and even grad school degrees were almost paid for. So eventually financial aid wasn't too big of a concern, but definitely in your choices, whatever your condition is, it's definitely something so realistic and permanent so that you and your parents should be wondering about. So yeah, I mean, I guess one strong advice that you must remember is, number one, focus, because senior year has ended.
Thank you. We are going to start to look at some of the questions that were posed earlier. Would anybody like to start with any of the questions that came up earlier while Meredith is looking at the questions that are coming up now? And for those of you who are attending the webinar, I encourage you to feel free to type in some questions for our presenters. It's a chance to get some great information.
So one question we actually got from Shauna is if you guys could talk a little bit about the other schools you got into and what kind of your final choices you were narrowing it down between and why you chose that. I know Kevin already kind of talked about that, but if the rest of you have anything about what other schools you got into, that would be great.
Okay. Yeah, I'll kind of focus on the last two that I was really juggling. I didn't apply to too many schools to start out with. I had a very focused vision on what I wanted from my college education. And the two schools that I was really juggling were Carnegie Mellon and Boston University. And again, I guess it's not much of a problem, but the concerns that I had with Carnegie Mellon, because if you look at the rankings, of course, Carnegie Mellon is a better engineering school. But I think you always have to look at how you position yourself in a specific school. And for me, at least, being another student at Carnegie Mellon, I felt that I might not have as much of an impact as I would at Boston University. So I visited Carnegie Mellon, which was also another one of the tips that Quinton gave us. And when I was visiting there, they had these great programs, really institutional. They really focused on, you know, the student experience. But one thing that they didn't really clarify too much was how much research opportunities freshmen got, for example. They talked about how many undergrads got research opportunities, but not specific to incoming freshmen, incoming sophomores, how that process is done. And I knew research was something I really wanted to pursue immediately right off the bat. BU, on the other hand, and this is partially because I'm local and it's a lot easier of access for me, but BU, before I even got in, I had already lined up a research in one of the top labs there, working with graphene, which is something that's directly in my field of interest. Also, the full scholarship really made it a very appealing decision, because at Carnegie Mellon, they didn't, so basically, I'm sure a lot of you know about this, but when you're going for financial aid, or you're applying for financial aid, everything about your financial aid is relying on your EFC, or your expected family contribution. And I honestly have no idea how this number is calculated, but for my family in particular, the EFC that we got was so high that none of the, I guess, scholarships given to the school were going to be received to us. So they said that we could pay full tuition for my 4 years. And whether I agree with that or not, it's really more of a personal decision, but I felt that it was a lot of money regardless, $250,000 and counting. We just had a 3.4 tuition raise this year. So that is a lot of money. And I think that for any family, honestly, it is a serious consideration to take into account, even if your EFC doesn't necessarily say that. So the fact that BU is giving me this trustee scholarship really did sway my decision. And the financial package I got at Carnegie Mellon was something that, it was very generous for what Carnegie Mellon usually offers. But again, it was something that I would have to negotiate every year. It was more complicated, less straightforward. So I guess it really does narrow down to the financial aid package that BU gave me and the research that they guaranteed, and also the AP classes that they would give me credit for, allowed me to advance myself in my career. That really, I guess, swayed my decision. I just want to take it from here.
Okay. So I also didn't apply to too many colleges, but the two that I that came down to were between Yale and MIT, and both of them had really good financial aid packages. Although Yale did offer me a little bit more money, but it came down to visiting. So where did I see myself fitting in and enjoying my 4 years there? The experience for me at Yale was very welcoming, very open. Like I said earlier, like I felt like my professors would buy me a slice of pizza. And for me, I felt that it was a better fit for me. Yale was a better fit for me than MIT, and I can't say I regret the decision, although I did have many friends who I did nights with who went to MIT, and so they're still like, I still came and visited and came to the campus, but the decision for me to go to Yale was, one, more I felt like I fit in better, and two, I really appreciated the liberal arts field of it. So I studied biomedical engineering there, and although MIT has a better engineering department overall, Yale's engineering department was small, so I felt like I could get more one-on-one attention, and it was well funded, and there's a lot of like student-professor interaction where I felt comfortable going to a professor like office hours or just randomly asking questions and talking to him about just different issues. So yeah, I think those are the main factors that swayed me in one direction.
One of the questions was about being female studying engineering, and you felt treated and on the classes and extracurriculars. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So being a female engineer, I think for me I had a very different experience from many people, namely because the biomedical engineering department was kind of split 50-50, so it wasn't heavily like male or heavily female. It was a mix of both. So it never felt as if like I was being drowned out by someone, or I couldn't raise my hand, or I couldn't ask a question because there were like people in the room who like might not understand me. So I think, I don't know how it is at other schools, but for me at Yale, it wasn't it was a non-issue. Gender wasn't really a thing. You were just respected as a student who had something to contribute, had ideas, and like you were there for a reason because like you you were smart. When considering colleges, I think it's important for you to understand that yes, you got into this college because they know that you have what it takes to do well. The experience is kind of what you make it and like how you approach it. So like even if you're a female or whatever, it's like I'm a student and I'm here to learn just like everyone else, and approaching it that way helps just as you're navigating courses in school. I don't know if that answered the question, but I think it wasn't really.
Anything about that? Observations on that? Okay. Are there any other questions that we? Someone has asked about balancing being in college and family life. From home.
Maybe talk about like my previous question on shared colleges.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to the question based on like choosing what colleges. So for me personally, I was debating between or among Harvard, MIT, Stanford, Yale, Columbia, and other like great tech schools. But I think the biggest thing that I've already mentioned was geography. Like, wow, I'm going to spend my time in the East Coast. Then I looked at, do I want to spend my time in New York, you want to spend time in Boston? Is the geography important? And for me, when I visited Columbia, I realized that, you know what, I don't think this busy city life is something that I want to spend the next 4 years in. When I visited other schools, I realized that, you know, I'm not so much of a type who likes to be in very busy places, but I also want to be in a very challenging environment as well. So when I was debating between Harvard and MIT, I think one thing that I specifically remember was visiting those two schools. So last year's MIT's visit weekend and Harvard's visit weekend was like consecutive weekends. And fortunately, like, I had a chance to experience both school visiting weekends and see what kind of vibe do the students give out. So just like our admissions officer has said, the schools will fund you. Take those opportunities, go visit your schools, and see what it's like. I think it's also really good if you can visit during normal school days, so you can see, you know, how the students interact. Maybe sit in one of those famous classes and see what kind of interactions, what kind of class teaching style do they give. But definitely visit and see what it's like over there. Just wanted to add.
I have some questions about waitlist. Does anyone want to talk about the process of waitlist and give that to you?
Yeah. So when you apply to college, kind of three things can happen, right? You can be admitted to a school. Yay! You could be, they could say, thanks, but no thanks. We're not going to admit you to a school. And that happens sometimes. It's okay. And the third option is to be offered a spot on the wait list. Now, the wait list, you should read that decision as a no. You should read the decision as a no. Unless they offer you a spot on the wait list. Unless they offer you admission. But the problem with the wait list is that you don't know about the wait list until after May 1st. So May 1st is the universal day for all colleges and universities, for students to tell all colleges and universities if you are enrolling or not enrolling. And you have been admitted to more than one college or university, probably, and you will have to disappoint some of the colleges and universities that you've been admitted to. And when you say no to some of the colleges and universities, that may open up spots for others at those schools. And so, you know, if colleges and universities don't have the number of students that they want to enroll in their freshman class, they may go to the wait list and offer admission opportunities to other students who've already deposited and decided to go other places. And so if you are on the wait list, you can be on the wait list. It's all right to stay on the wait list, but you may not come off the wait list. Do not assume that you will come off the wait list. That is not a good assumption to make. You should assume that there will not be spots available, and then you go forward with your other colleges and universities. You really want to focus on the schools that have admitted you, because those are great schools, and you really want to be able to devote your attention to finding out about the different financial aid options that are available there. You know, with the wait list, one, there's no telling if you'll come off the wait list. Two, you don't know what the financial aid package is going to look like if you do come off the wait list, and you don't want to forego other opportunities that are already in front of you. So if you're on a wait list, you know, talk with your counselor, your college counselor or guidance counselor about, you know, the opportunity. But I would say in general, just don't waste your time, quite honestly. That's just my personal advice. Maybe some students have had experience with the wait list. Anybody? Anybody?
Friends that were on waitlist?
Can I ask you a question quick?
Yeah.
How could it possibly make a difference in students and additional updates as they are on the waitlist to be admission process and scholarship or what do those possibly factor in making your decision making?
Essentially the question is, if students find themselves on the wait list, can providing supplemental information influence the wait list decision? And the answer to that is it depends. All schools use their wait lists very differently. And for some schools, they won't be going to their wait list at all. For others, they may be going to the wait list to some degree for 20 students, for 50 students, maybe for 200 students. They don't know until the yield comes in, and after May 1st, when students have deposited, will they know. And so when they do go to the wait list, one, you have to indicate that you want to will remain on the wait list. Two, you probably want to provide a brief statement of any updates that you have, saying, yes, I'd like to stay on the wait list. Oftentimes colleges will provide a space for you to share that information. And they'll take a look at that when they're going to the wait list, but it's just informational. It's not going to, like, oftentimes, it's just informational. It's just information. So, yeah.
There's another question about waitlist.
Oh my
Does the
God.
waitlist likely mean you won't get as much financial aid?
It depends on the school. You know, some schools have lots of money to provide financial aid to all students whenever they're admitted. Other schools do not necessarily have that much financial aid to provide to students on the wait list. And so it depends. It's different. This is why I really encourage you to focus on the schools to which you have already been admitted. Those are the places where you want to spend your time and really invest your energy. Hi, Shauna.
Any of our panelists want to provide some additional information? We have a few
Oh my
minutes.
God! Oh, whoa, we can really do it.
Oh,
my God.
you.
Just, there was a question we had gotten earlier by email that Kevin kind of touched on about the campus preview weekend, and is that an accurate representation of a campus, or are you better off visiting during, you know, a non-celebratory time? So I actually have two kind of warring opinions on that, so I'll give them both. But no, campus preview weekend is not the most accurate representation for a couple of reasons. One, because, you know, you're celebrating. You know, current students and alums who may be in the area are celebrating with, you know, admit to potential new students. And so it's a celebration. So do we celebrate 24/7 all year round? No. You know, we work sometimes and do other things. But, you know, it is a time where, you know, it's one of our high points of the year, and we have various high points during the year. So, no, it's not going to be like that all the time, but nothing really is. You know, prom isn't, you know, every Friday. You know, you have, you know, that one event, but you look forward to it and you enjoy it. And we have many of those throughout the year. And so, you know, take that, you know, with a grain of salt and understand that it's not constant, but it does happen outside of campus preview weekend. And my second point was there are even times where we enjoy campus preview weekend, or we enjoy campus more than that weekend, simply because for you guys, it's like you're coming and it's a great time and we're putting on all these events. And I can say this from a student perspective, we're putting on these events, we're organizing things, and we also still have classes and homework. You know, none of that stuff stops. And so we're still stressed out, we're still running around. There are actually times like, you know, winter break or downtime between or downtime after finals maybe, where school can be even better than that. You know, the campus can be, you know, even more excited and, you know, more kind of laid back than that moment. So highs and lows in between, but it does truly give you a feeling of the culture of the campus. So don't think just because maybe you saw everyone out building robots, do we go out and build robots every day? No, but that's something we enjoy to do. That's something that we take our time to do when we have the chance. So it definitely does, like Quinn said, give you a chance to understand that somewhere you can see yourself being, visit the school, and it does give you an idea of that overall school culture.
And I think that's really going on to what she said. Of course, when you visit during like the campus preview weekends and stuff, the vibe you get is very different from like a normal school day. But I think one huge advantage to going to those campus preview weekends is that they usually host the activities fair, where a lot of the clubs and organizations on campus have an opportunity to showcase like what they're doing, different types of conferences and projects they do. And for me personally, like when I visited Harvard's campus preview weekend and saw the activities fair, I realized, oh, that's an organization I want to join. That's a project I want to tackle. Oh, that kind of consulting group or that financial activity group is something I kind of want to explore. So if I went on a normal school day, I might not have had the chance to explore all of those in like one, 3-hour setting. But for me, that was when I really decided, these are the activities I want to pursue in college. These are some advice that a lot of the upperclassmen can give regarding those opportunities. So I think it's definitely worth visiting during visiting weekends as well.
Yep. Anyone else have any comments with that?
So I went to campus preview weekend for MIT, but I actually couldn't make Yale's campus preview weekend. So when I did visit, I went when there weren't a lot of students, so I really had a chance to interact with, actual undergrads there and see like what life was really like outside of like whatever activities they were putting on. So I think if you get the chance to, definitely go to the campus preview weekends that colleges hold, but you still have the opportunity to go outside of those. So for me, Yale still paid for me to fly out to visit the campus, even though I couldn't make the actual campus preview weekend, or Bulldog Days, what they called it. So you shouldn't be, if you're not able to make the dates, sometimes colleges do work with you to let you fly you out to the campus. So definitely consider that when you're looking at the colleges that you got into.
One of the questions was about getting to a college and feeling that maybe you made the wrong choice and what your options are. Do you want to talk about that? Are there friends that it hasn't happened to, or in your expertise? Quinton, anyone want to talk about?
I can probably give a quick perspective.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe give a professional one.
Okay.
You have lots of options. I think that's the first thing that comes to mind. Is just making that decision and being able to be convicted to that decision. I'll say from my perspective, as someone who ended up staying, I got here, I did feel at first it was a great fit. It took a while to kind of get into the groove of things, and my parents were more than happy to send me a transfer application to a university that's closer to home. Originally from Wisconsin, so coming out here is a little far from home for me. And that's definitely an option. If that's, a decision that you decide to make, it's a lot, at least for me personally, it's a lot of thought process going into it. In the end, I ended up deciding to stick it out, and it worked out well. I do have a friend who transferred out and left MIT because it wasn't the right fit for him, and it was a decision that he had to make, by himself. It couldn't be, us telling him our perspectives, oh, it's great, why would you want to leave? That's from our, point of view. From his point of view, there was a disconnect, and it was a really personal decision that he had to make. In the end, it really was about being close to his family. He was also from very far away, and that was a key component for him, and he kind of I'd say overlooked that factor when he was deciding on the school because it was, you know, he had an admission at MIT, you know. But it ended up really being detrimental to him in the not in the long run, but, you know, for the short time he was here. And actually, I get to see him pretty soon, so I'm excited. And he's a lot happier with the decision that he made in leaving campus. And so it happens at any school. People who want to leave and decide to stay, and people who actually transfer out. And I really think you have to sit and reflect on what's going to be best for you, and knowing that you're going to be comfortable with that decision.
Adding a little bit of a personal story for that. So for me, when I started my time at Harvard about 4 to 5 weeks in, I actually really thought about, you know, how would my life have been different if I went to MIT. Because interestingly, when I visited during campus preview weekend, I really felt like I fell into MIT a lot better than Harvard. So don't ask me why I made that choice of going to Harvard, but at least during the first semester, I really wish, you know, maybe I could have made a different decision. I could have been a lot more interesting in like engineering and the type of stuff that interested me at MIT. But one thing that a lot of my friends who had similar issues choosing between schools is that you, as time passes, you find your group of friends, you find your group of activities, and then you start slowly adjusting it. So for me, like, I had a really rough first semester, not only with academics and social life, but also like maybe I made the wrong choice, whatnot. But now, like, I'm happy that I stuck it out, because first semester is definitely not enough to see whether you made it to the right school or not. But second, you made the best decision when you did, with the best type of information and resources you had. So it's worth sticking it out and seeing how it is. But definitely that doesn't mean like your life is miserable, but just have to stay there and stick out all 4 years. There are definitely options of like transferring or whatnot, but just kind of go with your gut feelings. You'll enjoy it later.
I'd like to add something too with this one. So this is Shauna. I, years ago, also kind of agonized over where to go to college. And it was hard for me to make a decision. And one of my family friends said, Shauna, you make a decision and then you make it right. And I think for me, that was very helpful because, you know, I got into Howard, I got a full tuition and fees and all of that, but I still wasn't sure, was that where I was supposed to be? So that helped frame for me, when I went to Howard, that's where I was going to be, and I was going to do the best I could to enjoy that experience. And I wasn't going to spend much time at all thinking about where I could have been. And I think especially when, as all of our students will, get into numerous schools, you can sit in that space a little too long. And so realizing that it's college, it's fun, first of all. You're going to have a really great time. I know for me, my dad was a military dad, as I've told all of our kids. So being away from home, being in Washington, D.C., which was really important for me with my college choice, I wanted to be in a city because I came from Fayetteville, North Carolina, a smaller town. But I didn't want to be too far away from home. So I think thinking about once you've made that decision, really enjoy the fact that you're at college, regardless of the name, the location. You're not at home with your parents, who we love our parents. I'm a parent now too. But I just kind of that helped change my frame of reference, I think, because before then, when I was in high school my senior year, I was spending all this time wondering, was I making the right decision? So that would be the advice I would also have.
Great, thank you, Shauna. There's another question about financial aid and whether or not you can appeal to the school that you have gotten into for more financial aid than they had indicated, and what that process is like. How do you address that? Okay.
So for me, when I was deciding between schools, it was important that I be able to afford school. So initially, when I had my different financial aid packages, actually MIT offered me more money than like my other schools, and so what I did to the other ones was to see if they could match it, or could you match this or like give me more? And so Yale ended up matching and then adding a little more to the financial aid package, where it was cheaper for me to go there than it was to MIT. And the same thing happened during my 4 years of college. So whenever I had to reapply for financial aid, so like freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year, I would get a financial aid package that I thought, oh, this is more than I was expecting to pay, or like this is not like what I thought I'd have to pay. I didn't really have anything else to compare it to, but it's always good to know who your financial aid officer is and just have a conversation with them. So I remember her name is Jennifer because we emailed all the time, like, Jennifer, I didn't call her Jennifer, her name was Jennifer Farkas, so Miss Farkas. It was always a conversation between me and her saying, oh, I don't understand why it's this high, here's more information if you need it, can we adjust it? And so every year I had the same conversation with her, and it usually worked out where they're really understanding, and if they could help you, they would. So when going to college, one, it's always good to see if the financial aid package could be better, and even once you start going to college and you're reapplying for financial aid, if you feel like your package is not what you expected it to be, it doesn't hurt to just ask, why does it look like this, and can something be done about it? So just trying, I think, is important.
Thank you. One last question is about what the process is to actually commit to a school. Is that one to you?
Sure. So once you get the warm, fuzzy sensation in your belly and in your heart, and you know where you would like to enroll, you have to tell the school. And you do that kind of different ways in different places. One is just to respond to their email or go to the site where you can confirm your enrollment decision. Now, in confirming your enrollment decision, sometimes they'll also have you put down a housing deposit depending on the school. And that could be a modest amount. It could be a much more significant amount depending on the school. It varies. But once you, confirm as well as put down that money, essentially you have enrolled in college and intend to be there in August and begin to take classes. Now, when you enroll at whatever college that you choose to do, you also need to inform the other schools that have admitted you that you are respectfully declining their offer for admission, so they know that you won't be coming. And then you can tell your teachers and your counselors and all the folks who have been supporting you in the process, and have some apple cider with your parents and your little brother and sister and your puppy. And that's what you got to do. So.
Would anyone like to? Thank you. Would anyone like to add anything before we wrap it up? Yep.
Sure. If I had to give one final quick comment to, and this is specifically to the seniors out there, and also I guess to the parents, but take a deep breath, okay? I remember this process, it was really stressful. My parents were stressing out about what school I should choose. I was stressing out, I didn't really know. And I have to say that after, this is my second semester in college now, so after these first 2 semesters, honestly, I can't even remember the whole college application, college decision, who accepted me, who rejected me, who waitlisted me. It's all in the past. You focus on what you have, you focus on the schools that admitted you, and you honestly make best of whatever situation you have. Whether you got into your dream school, whether you got rejected from your dream school, you honestly move on, and it's not the center of your life. I know it sounds cheap because a lot of people are probably saying that, but it seriously is not the center of your life. You will move on, you will have successful careers if you work hard. Your college does not define you.
Great point. Yeah, he basically teed up my exact point. So I've been out of school now 2 years. I went straight from school to corporate America. I worked for a very well-known company, and I did an accelerated rotational program when I started. 30 kids, most of them straight from college. You got MIT, you have Dartmouth, you have Delaware State, you have Westchester University. There's schools in there you probably never heard of, but these are all, you know, great schools for the people who attended them. They thrived, and then we all ended up doing the same rotational program at the same great company, you know, achieving great things. And so your college doesn't define you. It's going to make you stronger wherever you go, wherever's the best fit for you, whatever's the best match between you and the school, and, you know, you'll still have success. It's hard to think of that now. Like I said, this is 6 years out for me, but you'll get there and you'll still, you know, have that great job. You'll still be able to work hard and achieve all the great things that you envisioned. Maybe a different path, a different journey, but you can still get there.
Great. Kevin, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I guess this message is specifically for seniors. I think your last few months that you have in high school and the last high school pre-college summer you have to realize that you're now in a stage that's quite different from high school. You're almost an adult, where you have to keep track of what you're able to do. That means, you know, if you're scheduling visits, you have to stay on top of your things. If you have scholarship, financial aid, package-related issues that you have to talk it and sort it out, it's no longer your parents' responsibility. It's all yours. It's a nice practice of how you'll be very independent and alone in college, where you have to be able to kind of control things that you can't control in your life. And just don't push that aside, and don't expect someone else or your parents or financial aid officers or counselors to follow up for you. If there's an important email, you follow up, you send, you communicate. But most importantly, just remember that you are about to enter possibly the 4 best years of your life. So just make sure you are responsible like a real adult.
Great. Thank you. I would like to thank all of our panelists who have been amazing, and I'd like to have a special shout out to Meredith Lawrence, who have put this all together and made all that everything work so you could see us and hear us, and we could see your questions, and we couldn't have done it without her. I'm going to turn it back over to Shauna. We do have another webinar coming up. I'm going to let Shauna finish up, and then I can just direct you to our next webinar, or I'll turn it over to you, Shauna.
Thank you so much. I just want to remind our family, our OEOP family, that remember that MIT is your home, point blank. I know a lot of you applied for college, but you're already part of the MIT family. You came here in middle school, you came here in high school, and so you have a tremendous start on the world. Just know that. I know that the last few months were filled with emotion and anxiety and excitement and all these things all together, and we didn't spend a lot of time talking about if you didn't get the letter that you wanted or the notice that you wanted. And that's okay. Linda is there, your family at MIT and OEOP are here. Remember that as you go through this process. As everyone has said, really it doesn't matter in the end. What matters most is where you're going to end up in school, and we're proud of you already. Absolutely proud of you already. And part of the point of this webinar was to make sure you have the information that you need and that you have the support that you need to make these decisions. But it's just a step in your journey. And I just wanted to remind you of that you're part of the MIT family, you're part of the OEOP family. And my heart is warmed by looking in the office and seeing all of our alumni who know that MIT is their home and OEOP is their home regardless of their college choices. So remember that for yourself also. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Quinton. Thank you, everyone, for helping put this on. It's the first time we've actually done a webinar like this, and I think it was phenomenal. So thank you.
Oops, I just want to do one more. We do have another webinar coming up. I really want to thank all our panelists again. Everyone did such a great job. Wonderful information, great energy. Thank you so much. Our next webinar is going to be about career paths in the STEM field. We are lucky to have Yvonne Spicer with us, and she is currently at the Museum of Science. She is one of our advisory board members at OEOP, and it is on April 5th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we look forward to seeing you again. And we do have a survey. We would love you to spend 5 minutes just to fill it out so we know how we're doing and we're responsive to you. And thank you again, everybody.